the first show I did was a play called Little Murders, and that was Chuck's first big part, and he was great to work with, and he's been around ever since. So that was really fun. And as I said, I think that was about 15 years ago, and it was a play that I had wanted to do for a long time, and it's kind of an anti-war, anti-gun play, but it gets at it in a very humorous way. It's written by Jules Feiffer, the famous cartoonist, although not many people know of his work as a playwright. But anyway, it was very fun, and it has a lot of crazy people in it. So crazy in different ways, though, which is what makes it great. And that was a really fun way to start working with Dreamwell. And then after that, a couple of years later, they asked me if I would do a play that featured women. And it was up to me to pick the play, which is a wonderful idea as far as I'm concerned. And so I did a play called Desdemona, a play about a handkerchief, which was the Othello story, at least that last half of it, told from the point of view of Desdemona. And it has scenes, not only with Desdemona, but with Emilia and Bianca, that take place between the scenes of Othello. And it's written by Paula Vogel. And that was really fun to work with those women. Sharon was in that, Sharon Faldudo. And I think the other two people are people that are no longer here. But anyway, it was fun to work on that. And that was indeed in the back in the Unitarian Church the first time. I don't know if anyone else has mentioned this, but Dreamwell was in the Unitarian Church, and then it went to the Wesley House, where it is now, where Public Space 1 is now, that same stage. Then back to the Unitarian Church, although in there were a couple of other spaces. I one time directed a play that Matt Brubaker was in called More Fun Than Bowling, and that was in a dance studio that was part of Old Brick. And that room is still there, but it's not a dance studio anymore. It had a dance floor that was taken up and everything. But anyway, so Dreamwell has jumped around a lot and been in a bunch of, well, not a bunch, but 4 or 5 different spaces that I can remember. Although it was mostly we went to this space, then we went to another one, then we came back. So it's I think we're in a wonderful space now, though. I mean, that's when we were in the Wesley Center before, the space was shared with the free meals. I don't know the name now. I just can't remember the name of the program. But anyway, it was shared, that room. So it was always set up with a lot of tables and chairs, which we had to take down and put back up. And then also, and it was sort of, it smelled like food. And so it was, and there was a lot of other stuff sort of stored around in there. It was not an ideal space, although it did have the same little stage it has now. And of course the Unitarian Church was always the Unitarian Church. Anyone who's watching a retrospective video about Dreamwell will remember the Unitarian Church. And then of course there was the brief time that Dreamwell was at the shopping mall. And that was a great space, even though it didn't last long. But I never directed anything there. I did do costume, a funny costume there. It was a remount of a play called, oh dear, I can't remember the name of the play. But we had to have a peanut costume. This woman in the play was one of those people that stands on the street corner and waves and to get people's attention. And she was supposed to be wearing a Mr. Peanut costume. Well, they had done the play before. Oh, the play is The Book of Liz. And They had done the play before, but they didn't save the costume. So then when they got that space, they said, this is a good space. So I was enrolled to do the costume. And my brother helped me. And he was a set builder from many, many years ago. Not ever for Dreamwell, but anyway, he helped me do it. And he did it he made it sort of like it was a piece of scenery. It was made out of wood and chicken wire, and we had to have Chris come over and try it on a couple of times, and then we covered it with fabric and we painted it to look like Mr. Peanut. And I think we just threw that out a few years ago. We're not doing the Book of Liz again. It's a good play, but we're not doing it again. But that was a fun, sort of a fun job that I undertook one time for Dreamwell. But I would say my favorite memories of Dreamwell are when I have been privileged to do several plays that were really from the bottom of my heart. Although I would say all the plays I've done for Dreamwell were plays that I really did want to do. But in particular, the first year that Chuck and I were the co-artistic directors, we did a season called A Season of Inciting Theater, which meant plays that had been banned or incited riots or caused quite a lot of upset when they were first produced. And the play that I did was Master Harold and the Boys, which is by a South African author, and it was banned in South Africa until apartheid was abolished, and long after it had been produced successfully in the United States. But anyway, it's now a classic play, and Athol Fugard is sort of a classic playwright, classic modern playwright, and that was a great privilege to do that show. And as it was to do The Whipping Man more recently. But anyway, and then there are the comedies. I'm always in favor of us doing comedies because I think there's a playwright friend of mine who says comedy makes it possible to talk about things that are very hard to talk about a lot of times. And I did a fun production of Baby with the Bathwater by Christopher Durang. That was one of the few times, I think, in the past that Dreamwell repeated a show that they had done before, because they did it before I even came on the scene in, I think, either the first or second season of the theater. And I had seen that production, but it was a long time ago, and we decided in play and director selection, in the play selection committee, that we would do it again because it's fun and it's worth doing and it makes a lot of points, and that was fun. We did that, oh well, of course I can't remember the year now, but I think it was about 5 years ago at the Unitarian Church. And so that's my favorite thing about Dreamwell, is that we do, and other people have said this, we do plays that you don't get to see anywhere else in Iowa City. And that's, of course, deliberate on our part. And the really exciting thing about Dreamwell and about the way we select our plays and the kind of plays that we do. Because, as I said, I don't think anybody else in town does as many plays like that as we do. Riverside probably comes close, and of course Riverside also, now that it has Sean Christopher Lewis as its wonderful artistic director, does a lot of new work, which is something that we also do. But I think we're the only, if I can call us, community theater, where the actors are not paid, where no one is paid. We're the only theater of that kind that is doing the kind of plays that we do. And that means we make a place for people who really like to do that kind of work. And it is very special And I think it's wonderful, especially, oh, I probably shouldn't say this, but especially as I see musicals sort of taking over the community theater scene all around Iowa City. And not that there's anything wrong with musicals, and there's a lot of innovative new musicals coming out. But if you don't sing, you, or dance or anything like that, then you might want to be in a straight play, and I don't want to see straight plays vanish from the scene, not at all, because it's important. Partly because I think that the things that you try, the seriousness of straight plays, now there are musicals that are also serious, but I don't think that they can, because they have to do singing and music, you have to make room for the music in those kind of shows. So that, I think they are not able to focus as sharply on some of the issues as, and there are people who would disagree with me, I'm sure, but we try to find plays that focus really sharply on some of these issues. We also offer some opportunities for actors that wouldn't otherwise find a place, like people that don't sing, for instance. There are some very good actors around Iowa City that are not musical threats, and I don't even mean musical comedy threats, but and so there's got to be a place for those people. In that way, I think we're sort of like the Combined Efforts Theater, if you know their work. They have their plays feature a mixture of people with disabilities and and people of various disabilities, or what we would call disabilities, or other abilities. And so I think we make a space for that, and hopefully we make a space that will get people started talking about some of these issues. And we wouldn't be the only ones doing that. That's one of the missions of Sean Lewis. But hopefully, along with that, we're the only people that have the All in a Day Play Festival, which is a real, I don't know, it strikes me as being kind of a mixture between people who like to write and people who like to sort of do improvisation, or, what's in the moment, what's coming up right now. And that's I think, been very valuable to the Iowa City community. It's brought some people into the theater that wouldn't otherwise join us. I've never acted or directed in it or written for it. However, I've been to it most of the time. There have been a few times when I've been out of town or something, but I think it's a great project. And it's also served Dreamwell very well as far as expanding our audience, I think. And it brings, it also brings in some writing that is not your usual topics of playwriting. Because of course I'm a former stage manager, so I like shows where everything is going well. I've got to say, maybe I should just say what I think the funniest thing I have ever seen on the Dreamwell stage was not in a play that I directed or anything else. It was in a production of of a Greek play, one where the women won't have sex with their husbands until they stop fighting in the war. When we were in the Unitarian Church, the bane of every director's existence was the lift at the corner of the stage, to lift wheelchairs from the level of the audience up to the level of the stage. It was just a pain. It was there, stuck in the front of us, stuck in front, and on that small a proscenium, it looked like it took up so much space. But when Matt Brubaker, in drag, was lifted up Yes, the Deus Ex Machina in that play, that was the funniest thing I have ever seen on the Dreamwell stage. And it took a while, you know. It doesn't just go up like this, zip. It was, he came up slowly, and of course, he basked in every moment of it being raised up. That was so funny. I'm laughing about it still. I did the costumes for a Nikki Silver play that Pauline Tyre directed. And Chris Hunt had to be this woman who, I don't remember why in the play, but there was some reason that she would never change her clothes. And the play covered quite a span of time. So some of the most fun I had costuming was I bought 3 outfits. It was basically a skirt from Walmart and a sort of a fancy t-shirt with a V-neck and stuff. And I bought 3 of them. And then I got to the first one, she just wore it like it was, and we had it trimmed up with some lace around the collar and things like that. And then the next one was kind of getting disintegrated. And the third one was in rags. And it was so much fun to do that distressing and to see what she looked like when she was halfway raggy and totally raggy. That was fun too. And that was, besides that, that was a very fun production. Oh, I think just our mission, for sure. And we have a lot of talented and responsible people on the board and just working on our shows at the moment. I don't think we'll have any trouble carrying on. I think we might have to be careful down the road that we don't lose our mission. When you're a theater like ours, you do need to try to be inclusive. That's very important. And so we try to get people from, other racial mixtures, all kinds of inclusiveness. I do think the only thing I think we have to be careful of is that we don't become a niche theater where we do plays where you go, well, I'm not gay, so I don't want to see that play. Or I'm not African American, so this is not going to be a play for me. Or I'm not whatever. And so I think that's one of our challenges, is that we do want to expand our audience and we do want to be inclusive, but we don't want to then turn out to be exclusive of our what has been our main audience. And the other thing is, I think we have to watch out for being, and I would say this when the founders were on the board too, that we don't get overly intellectual. There's a lot of theater that is very much instinctive. And I've seen actors who were very smart, good at analyzing the script, etc., but they just somehow didn't have that instinct that told them exactly how to approach the material. And I think that overanalyzing things or being overly analytical is a trap there sometimes. But I don't think we're going to fall into that, because I think we have such a broad base that I think Dreamwell is going to hum along very well for another 20 years. Iowa City is a very good location for something like Dreamwell. I mean, Iowa City audiences are very sharp, and that's one of the reasons that Dreamwell, I think, has lasted as long as it has, because we do plays that our audiences like to come and see because they're very challenging, and people like that. One of the ones that I remember I felt the most instinctively was a Dreamwell show, was Puna the Fuck Dog, when we chose it the first time. For one thing, we had already chosen the theme for our season. That was when Chuck and I were the co-artistic directors, and we had already sort of hit on doing things, doing a whole season called the Taboo Bijou, of subjects that were taboo. And when I read that play, I said, Chuck, we have to do this. I mean, this is, it fits right in with our season, and it's a Dreamwell kind of a play. And I think, and I still think I was right. Thank goodness we're revisiting the play again, because it is about things that are, the things that are forbidden, and then the backside of it is, hey, it's just, that's not so bad. That's just something else. It's extremely witty. Also, at the time that Jeff Good wrote it, he was a local playwright. Thank goodness it's now a published play, and hopefully a lot of people are doing it. But that was essentially a real Dreamwell play to me. I also think The Nether is a real, that we did just last season, is a real Dreamwell play. As I thought, actually, The Whipping Man was too when I directed that. Those are, for one thing, those are both fine plays. They're both beautifully written, and the outlook is unusual. The topic is unusual in both cases. Go Dreamwell. I mean, keep the same spirit that we have had, because the founders did a good job of establishing the theater and giving us our mission and our goals, but we also have to bring our enthusiasm and our hard work to it, and we have already for years and years, and that won't go away, I think. But we need to keep on attracting people who are really enthusiastic about that mission and about doing the kind of work that we do. Okay, happy birthday, Dreamwell, and many more.